Hey everyone, welcome back. This is Six Path Weeb, and today we're diving into part 2 of What If Naruko Confronted Kaguya First? This is one of those scenarios that flips the story on its head, changing the flow of the battle and the fate of the shinobi world. Quick disclaimer before we begin, this content is purely for entertainment and discussion. I do not own any of the anime footage used here. All rights and credits belong to their respective creators and copyright holders. Alright, let's get started. Just outside Konohagakure, Naruko walked a few paces behind Jiraiya, her mind wandering aimlessly. She wasn't focused on the path, only glad to have a moment of freedom beyond the bustling village. Her feet moved almost of their own accord, without her noticing that she was drifting away from Jiraiya's intended direction. Jiraiya glanced over his shoulder and noticed Naruko veering off at an angle. "Naruko," he called, hoping to draw her attention. But she kept walking forward, silent and distant. Concerned, Jiraiya hurried after her, reaching out to place a hand on her shoulder. The moment he did, a surge of energy burst forth, gently pushing him back with surprising force. Puzzled, Jiraiya steadied himself. He tried once more, but again the same energy pushed him away, stronger this time. Realizing he could not stop her directly, he decided to follow closely instead. After some time, Naruko led them to the great mountain that overlooked the hidden leaf. She came to a sudden stop, standing still with her eyes closed. Jiraiya, about to ask a question, felt the air ripple with a powerful chakra surge. The energy pressed down so heavily that Jiraiya had to brace himself against a tree for balance. Then, just as quickly as it came, the chakra subsided, leaving only silence. The mountain rumbled beneath them. The ground cracked under Naruko's feet, and before Jiraiya could react, she slipped into the opening. Without hesitation, he leapt in after her. The tunnel below was completely dark, not even the faintest trace of light from above. A cool breeze drifted through the passage. Jiraiya conjured small glowing orbs of fire to light the way and quickly followed the sound of Naruko's steps deeper into the tunnel. Time seemed to stretch endlessly as the path wound downward. Eventually, the tunnel opened into a massive cavern. The ceiling disappeared into shadow, far too high to see. As Jiraiya brightened his flames, their light glimmered against something ahead. Naruko stood quietly at the center, her expression distant but not empty. Her eyes seemed curious, as though she sensed something extraordinary. "Uro-sennin," she said softly. "I was wondering when you'd get here." The nickname brought relief to Jiraiya. It had been a long while since she had spoken to him with such familiarity. They looked around in awe. The cavern was enormous, with walls stretching outward like the boundaries of another world. Suddenly, a channel carved into the floor carried the flame Jiraiya had set alight, racing along the stone until the entire chamber filled with a radiant glow. Suspended above them was a sphere of blazing light, like a miniature sun, illuminating everything. At the far end stood a shrine, ancient, ornate, and regal. Its design reminded Naruko of structures from forgotten kingdoms, radiating an aura of wisdom and reverence. They approached the central tablet. Strange symbols were carved across its surface. Jiraiya traced the markings with interest but shook his head. "I can't read this. It's in a language long forgotten." But then, to his surprise, Naruko began to speak. "Ye of Uzumaki by name and heritage, present your hand and be acknowledged. Only the worthy may proceed." Jiraiya stared. "You can read that?" Naruko nodded slowly. "I don't know how. But it feels natural, like the stone wants me to place my hand upon it." Alarmed, Jiraiya tried to stop her. "Wait. We don't know what kind of power is here. It could be dangerous." But Naruko had already pressed her palm against the stone. A brilliant light enveloped her hand, and for a moment her body stiffened. Jiraiya moved forward, preparing to intervene, but then the glow faded. Naruko stumbled slightly, dazed but unharmed. Before Jiraiya could speak, voices echoed through the cavern. Tsunade arrived with several onbu, concern etched across her face. "The whole village felt that surge of chakra," she said, scanning the vast chamber. "What happened here?" Jiraiya quickly explained how Naruko had unknowingly led them into the cavern, discovered the shrine, and activated the tablet. Tsunade dismissed the onbu after Naruko calmly insisted that the information should be shared only with her and Jiraiya. Once they were alone, Naruko unsheathed a divine blade and summoned the spirit of Kushina, her mother. Kushina blinked in surprise, then softened into a smile. "I wasn't expecting to see this place. It's remarkable." "Mother," Naruko asked gently, "what do you know of our clan's history?" Kushina thought for a moment. "I know the Uzumaki were gifted in sealing techniques and often lived long lives, many reaching well over 100 years. But beyond that, much of our history has been lost. Naruko nodded thoughtfully. This shrine belongs to the Uzumaki. I can feel it. The others stood in awe as the ancient tablet shifted once more. More writing appeared, glowing faintly in the light. Naruko stepped forward and read aloud. Ye of Uzumaki heritage have been found worthy. Seek the other shrines, for only then shall the full truth be revealed. Before time itself began, 4 divine beings brought balance to the cosmos. Asami, the goddess of creation. Kami, the goddess of life. Shinigami, the guardian of spirits. And Kratos, the god of destruction. Asami, gifted with the powers of the others, shaped the universe. From her vision, Earth was born, her masterpiece. This single planet, though small compared to the endless galaxies, became home to the most diverse and intricate web of life. Among all of Asami's wonders, humankind shone brightest. Kami, also known as Fate, gently guided the course of every living being. Shinigami, the spirit keeper, safeguarded the passage of souls into their next journey. Kratos, however, longed for chaos and unrest. His desire to dismantle what was created only grew stronger with time. Unable to contain his impulse, Kratos sent forth a fragment of himself, casting it down upon Earth. This being was called the Jubi, a force of pure disorder and imbalance. For many years, it caused fear and turmoil across the land. Meanwhile, the other deities joined together to confront Kratos. Their conflict shook the very foundation of the cosmos, but in the end, Kratos was sealed away so harmony could be preserved. The Jubi, however, remained on Earth. To counter it, Asami created a protector, the Sage of the Six Paths. Guided by Kami, the sage faced the Jubi and managed to contain it within himself, though it could not be completely destroyed. This act altered the sage's very being, and from him emerged extraordinary powers known as dojutsu. The sage understood these powers were too immense to be held as one, so he divided them into 2 forms, the Sharingan and the Rinnegan. In time, these abilities passed to different clans, the Uchiha and the Uzumaki. The Sharingan granted foresight and mastery over perception, while the Rinnegan allowed control over elements and balance of forces. To safeguard the future, the sage created 6 hidden tombs. Each tomb was a trial, containing powers to be unlocked only by those who proved their worth. These gifts ranged from elemental mastery, fire, wind, water, earth, and lightning, to control over spiritual energy itself. The final tomb would awaken the full potential of the divine eyes, the Metsuki no Kami. A riddle was left behind: seek the land where the ground flows like waves, where sun scorches and moon chills alike. Find that which no one can live without, and search beneath what lies beneath. There you will uncover the wind. The chamber fell quiet after the message was revealed. Naruko listened, her bright blue eyes reflecting the glow of the ancient stone. This is quite a revelation, Tsunade admitted, her tone filled with wonder. Naruko exhaled softly. I never thought I would learn that I carry the legacy of the Sage of Six Paths. Jiraiya tilted his head curiously. So, if this place was created by the sage, does that mean you have inherited control over fire? Naruko gave a small nod. Yes. Not only that, but this stone carries memories of the sage's own techniques. Watch. She extended her hand toward a floating sphere of flame. The fire drifted gracefully toward her, wrapping around her arm without harm. With a gentle motion, she directed it outward. Sage style, heaven's light, Naruko said. A radiant glow filled the chamber, warming without burning. To demonstrate further, she shifted the flames into different forms: a whip, a sword, a shield, even a shimmering lake. I cannot create fire freely without chakra, but once it exists, I can shape it however I choose. Kushina's eyes softened, though her brow furrowed with thought. Naruko, if you've gained this gift, why ask about the clan? Because I wanted to know if others had awakened the Rinnegan, Naruko explained calmly. Kushina nodded slowly. It is said to be rare, perhaps too rare. If the Uzumaki were known to hold it, the clan might have been overwhelmed with pressure or unwanted attention. Jiraiya chuckled lightly. And the world hardly needs another clan with too much pride. Tsunade refocused. What about that last part of the riddle? Any ideas? The group fell into thoughtful silence. At last, Tsunade sighed. We'll solve it later. For now, we need to leave before the Anbu begin to wonder. Naruko, I'd like you to come with me to the hospital. I must be sure this stone hasn't caused any hidden effects. And I won't take no for an answer. Naruko sighed but agreed. All right, but please make it quick. I don't wish to stay here longer than necessary. Tsunade paused at her words, feeling the weight behind them. She understood Naruko's pain but also admired her strength. Time skip, 6 hours. Tsunade let out a weary sigh as she settled into her chair behind the desk. She had just returned from the hospital after personally checking on Naruko. To her surprise, Naruko's body showed no signs of weakness. If anything, her condition appeared to be improving. Still, Tsunade ordered a few days of observation and additional medical tests, just to be safe. Though Naruko had grumbled about it, she eventually agreed after some firm persuasion. A knock at the door broke Tsunade's thoughts. She quickly straightened her posture. "Enter," she called. The door opened, revealing Sakura, her hair tangled and clothes wrinkled from neglect. She stepped inside timidly, her eyes lowered. "You wish to see me, Hokage-sama?" she asked softly. "Yes. Please, sit," Tsunade instructed. Sakura carefully took the chair, looking nervous. Tsunade opened a drawer, pulled something out, and slid it across the desk. Sakura's eyes widened. "Her shinobi license. You are receiving this only because of Naruko," Tsunade said firmly. Sakura's heart lifted slightly, a flicker of hope sparking. But as she reached for it, Tsunade pulled it back, her gaze sharp. "Listen carefully. If it were up to me, you would not be getting this back. But Naruko requested it. However, she also asked that you never be placed on the same team, mission, or assignment with her again. And I will honor that request." Sakura's shoulders sagged. She realized just how much she had lost. "As of now, you are on probation. You will not leave the village without my permission. For 1 year, you will only take D-rank missions, with half the normal pay. The remaining funds will be redirected into Naruko's account." Sakura opened her mouth to protest, but Tsunade's firm expression silenced her instantly. "You may either accept this, or lose your shinobi license permanently," Tsunade concluded. Sakura, after a long pause, finally nodded. "I accept." Tsunade leaned back in her chair. "Good. Take this as an opportunity to reflect and grow." Shizune soon entered, giving Sakura a worried glance. Tsunade handed Sakura her license and dismissed them both, her eyes already back on her paperwork. Time skip, 2 days. Naruko and Jiraiya were once again setting out on their long training journey. Before leaving, they had stopped by Tsunade's office to bid her farewell. She offered them encouragement and promised to keep working on any clues regarding Naruko's unusual condition. The medical results had all come back clear, no illness, no abnormalities, so Naruko was given a clean bill of health. As they leapt from tree to tree, moving further from Konoha, Naruko felt the weight of the village slowly lift from her shoulders. They eventually paused in a small town for food, before Jiraiya outlined her new training schedule. "Here's how it'll go," he explained. Day 1 starts with physical training, 5-mile run, push-ups, sit-ups, and chin-ups. While you're at it, your clones will handle chakra control exercises. After lunch, 1 clone will train taijutsu with me, while you focus on kenjutsu with Kushina. In the evening, you'll spar, then rest. He continued, Day 2 will focus on strikes, elemental practice, and jutsu study. Meanwhile, your clones will organize the Uzumaki and Namikaze libraries by category, taijutsu, ninjutsu, sealing arts, kenjutsu, and general knowledge like medicine, mathematics, and history. Once organized, they'll begin studying sealing techniques and fire-style chakra. Later, we'll strengthen your wind affinity further. Naruko nodded seriously, already feeling both excitement and determination. Time skip, next day, evening. At a quiet riverside training ground, Naruko sat by a small campfire, finishing a simple meal of grilled fish. Exhaustion weighed on her body from the day's training, yet she felt accomplished. Her chakra control drills had been modified to be more challenging, tree climbing with her body completely horizontal, and water walking balanced only on her fingertips. She had created hundreds of clones to practice, each dispersing quickly from overexertion, forcing her to keep making more. Her muscles were sore from Kushina's strict kenjutsu lessons. Kushina corrected even the smallest mistake in posture or stance, ensuring Naruko built strong fundamentals. Though demanding, Naruko knew the training would pay off. She stretched carefully, knowing it would ease the soreness by morning, then settled into her sleeping bag with her sword close by. Her eyes closed almost instantly, the stars above marking the end of another step in her journey. Mindscape. Naruko opened her eyes to a scene she recognized at once, a long sewer with shallow water lapping at her ankles. Though she had only visited this strange place once before, she instantly knew who resided here. With quiet determination, She walked toward the towering gate that held the great fox spirit. "Hey, fuzzball! Wake up!" Naruko called, tapping the gate so it rattled. From the shadows, the enormous fox stirred. With a deep growl, it leapt closer, eyes glowing, tail swishing restlessly. Naruko stood calmly, unshaken by the display. "Insolent child! Why are you here?" the fox rumbled. Naruko raised her brow slightly but didn't flinch. "I thought you summoned me here." "I did not," the fox replied with a sly look. "Why would I wish to speak with you?" In truth, the fox had indeed drawn her here, but it saw no reason to admit that. Naruko gave a small nod and began to turn away when the fox's voice called her back. "Since you are here, I might as well offer you a proposal." Naruko paused, curious. "What kind of proposal?" The fox's sharp eyes gleamed. "I will allow you to draw upon my energy, my Yuki, and perhaps even learn to control it." Naruko sighed softly. Having access to such power could be useful, but she was certain the fox wasn't doing this purely out of kindness. Still, she stepped closer to the gate again. "And why do I feel as if you're not doing this for my benefit?" she asked. The fox let out a short laugh. "Indeed, I am no gentle guardian. I simply grow weary of this endless water and dull surroundings. I also wish to sense the outside world again. Being locked away with nothing but shadows is tiresome." Naruko considered this carefully. "And why should I trust you? The last time I was here, you made threats against me and my friends. I don't believe you'll keep your word." "Listen, child," the fox replied more seriously. "It wasn't truly me who attacked your village. I was forced into that role. Some cloaked figures tricked and controlled me. I remember a man who smelled of snakes, one with a mask, a strange fish-like warrior with a large sword, and another covered in masks. They used a powerful illusion on me and created a clone fueled by my energy. That clone was what your village fought against, not me. Before I could free myself, I was sealed here." Naruko listened quietly, her curiosity deepening. "Those people are from an organization called Akatsuki. They're after the tailed beasts. The one who smelled of snakes is Orochimaru, and he attacked the hidden leaf not too long ago." The fox's tail swished, but it said nothing more of them. Instead, it returned to its point. "If we make this deal, I'll give you strength, but you'll need to adjust the seal that binds me. Ask your teacher, the one who knows many seals, to do it. And prepare yourself, your body will need to grow stronger to handle the increase in energy." Naruko folded her arms thoughtfully. "That does make me feel more at ease. If Jiraiya helps, I'll trust the process." The fox smirked faintly. "I can hear your thoughts, you know. This is your mind, but I am connected to it whether I like it or not. Honestly, being linked to a teenager's mind isn't exactly enjoyable." Naruko ignored the jab and asked, "So what else did you bring me here for?" The fox gave her a sharp, measuring look. "You've grown more aware. How long have you known about this place?" "Not very long," Naruko admitted. "The only other time I came here was when I was in danger. I assumed only situations like that could bring me here. After our first meeting, I didn't plan to return unless I had no choice." The fox chuckled. "Perhaps you are not as simple as you seem." Naruko tilted her head. "Tell me, how much of my chakra is actually your energy?" The fox blinked, surprised by the question. "About half. That is why you struggle with controlling techniques. Your chakra is immense but mixed with my Yuki, making it harder to refine. That's also why you have greater reserves than most shinobi." Naruko narrowed her eyes. "So that's your fault," she muttered, though she regretted saying it immediately. The fox gave a thunderous growl, shaking the very walls of the sewer. The ground trembled, and Naruko had to steady herself against the wall. "Do not forget, child," the fox warned, "though I cannot escape this seal, I can still affect your body. Respect our bond." Naruko bowed her head. "I'm sorry. You're right. I spoke without thinking. I'll try to be more careful with my words." The fox settled back down, calmer now. After a pause, Naruko stepped closer to the bars again. "So, if I accept your offer, what exactly will happen to me?" The fox's gaze sharpened. "If the seal is adjusted, more of my energy will flow into you. Your chakra coils will expand, which will be painful at first, but it will also make you stronger. Imagine it like training your muscles. The process is difficult, but the growth is rewarding." Naruko considered this seriously. She could feel that, despite its rough words, the fox was speaking the truth. Perhaps this strange partnership could lead her to new strength, if she was willing to take the risk. Naruko had the remarkable advantage of being able to draw upon more chakra than most, while also needing less of it for ninjutsu. This gave her tremendous potential in that area. In addition, her larger chakra coils made it much harder for her tenketsu to be sealed by someone with the Byakugan. However, there were also drawbacks. The process of adjusting her chakra pathways could be uncomfortable for a while, and her control would become even more difficult. It meant she would have to train again from the beginning. But that wasn't necessarily bad. After all, she was still just beginning her journey. The biggest concern was the possibility of the nine-tailed fox's power escaping, but with Jiraiya watching over, the risk was far less. Naruko turned toward the great fox spirit. I agree. The first thing I should do is change this place. She experimented, adjusting the surroundings little by little, altering how much water ran through the sewer floor, brightening or dimming the light. Nothing too large, just enough to practice reshaping her inner world. After some time focusing, she tried again. Suddenly, Naruko and the Nine Tails found themselves in the middle of Konoha. It was quiet, still, and empty, no people, no sound, just the two of them. You know, the fox murmured, I'm glad this is no longer a cage. But even if this is only a projection, I would prefer not to be here. This village carries memories I would rather not dwell on. Naruko nodded in agreement. So, what would you like instead? The Nine Tails blinked at her. I would like my old den. It was my home for centuries, and it always gave me comfort. May I? Naruko nodded once again, and the scene shifted. They stood in a vast cave, towering more than 150 feet high, wide, and stretching deep into the earth. A small pool sparkled in the back, likely fed by an underground river. On one side, a bed of hay lay waiting, where the fox already curled up peacefully. Near the entrance was a pile of stones and crystals, glimmering faintly. The Nine Tails stretched out, all nine tails resting lazily against the wall. Naruko walked closer, noticing something unusual. You never told me you had a form beyond this. The fox opened an eye. I do not belong to either male or female. I am unique. Still, my nature often reflects that of a female fox, though I can appear differently if I wish. My form is made of pure chakra, so I can change as needed. That includes taking on a human shape. Naruko tilted her head thoughtfully. So you have a human form as well? The fox gave a playful look. Of course. I have used it when walking among humans or avoiding unwanted attention. I imagine you are curious to see it. Naruko nodded, though she hadn't expected this conversation when it began. Not now, the Nine Tails said with a small yawn. I would rather rest. Return in 2 weeks, and then we shall see if you are prepared for my energy. Naruko gave a polite nod and stepped away. The Nine Tails nestled deeper into the hay, content and peaceful, comforted by the familiar surroundings. Meanwhile, in Konohagakure, Bull, an Anbu under Lady Tsunade, moved swiftly across the rooftops. He had just discovered the location of Root's hidden base and was hurrying to deliver the report. He had considered leaving right away, but something had urged him to wait and observe. From his vantage point, he noticed several Root operatives standing nearby. They suddenly stood at attention as Danzo appeared. Prepare the base for departure, Danzo instructed. The other clans and the Hokage will soon act. My contacts in the Hyuga and Aburame clans warn me that trackers are on my trail. We must be ready to leave within 6 hours. Until then, maintain the highest security. The operatives bowed and dispersed. Bull, taking care not to be noticed, immediately set off toward the Hokage's tower. He leapt to a window ledge, knocked firmly, and was quickly admitted by Tsunade herself. Report, she ordered. I found the Root base. They are preparing to leave Konoha. Danzo mentioned that spies informed him of his situation. They will be gone in less than 5 hours. Tsunade frowned, but a small smile tugged at her lips. This meant she still held the advantage of surprise. Where is the base located? Bull pulled out a map he had sketched. District 5, Section 17, Sector 56. It appears to be a system of tunnels leading into a main chamber and several smaller rooms. Her expression grew thoughtful. The southern district, close to the outer wall, meant the tunnels likely extended into the forest to avoid notice. Summon the Anbu captains, the Jonin leaders, and the clan heads. Only the clan heads. Make sure it is done discreetly. We must not reveal our hand too early. Yes, Lady Hokage, Bull replied before vanishing. Tsunade leaned back with a determined smile. The real mission begins now. Time skip, 3 weeks later, village inside Hai no Kuni. Naruko doubled over, panting as sweat rolled down her face. She clenched her teeth and forced her tired body to stand tall, even though her sparring match with Jiraiya was proving to be overwhelmingly difficult. Although Naruko had made remarkable progress over the past few weeks, she was still far from reaching the skill level of a Sannin. Weighted chakra bands and a resistance seal made her movements much heavier, turning every action into training that built her strength and sharpened her speed. Her chakra control had improved greatly, thanks to endless exercises. By the second week, she had advanced to balancing kunai. But these weren't ordinary kunai, they carried special weight seals that Jiraiya adjusted randomly with clones, either increasing or decreasing the flow of chakra at any moment. The challenge forced Naruko to refine her reflexes and her control of chakra even outside her body. Her sword training was also coming along. Since wielding a blade was completely new to her, progress was slower, but through sheer determination and repetition, she was steadily advancing. "Focus, Naruko." Jiraiya's voice rang out. "Wha?" Naruko barely responded before she found herself knocked aside by Jiraiya's sudden strike. She tumbled across the ground, sliding to a halt before groaning in frustration. "I told you not to daydream during a spar." "Pay attention," Jiraiya scolded lightly. Another new development came from the altered seal on Naruko. Thanks to Jiraiya's adjustments, she could now communicate with the Nine Tails without entering her inner mindscape. Her natural recovery also improved significantly, allowing her to train harder each day and recover more efficiently. Naruko lay on the ground for a moment before pushing herself upright. Jiraiya stepped closer, blocking the sunlight with his tall frame. "You need to stay alert, Naruko. Distraction will slow your progress." Naruko let out a groan. "Wonderful. Now even the fox inside me tells me the same thing." Jiraiya chuckled and offered his hand to help her stand. "Then you should take the advice seriously. It'll help you avoid unnecessary setbacks." Naruko was about to retort when she suddenly stopped, her eyes lighting up. "My clones just finished organizing the scrolls," she announced proudly. "You only just finished?" Jiraiya asked, raising an eyebrow. Naruko's brow twitched. "Sorting through thousands of scrolls isn't easy. And I had to create my own storage seals first, which meant learning the sealing technique along the way." Jiraiya gave a small shake of his head. Fine. How's your elemental chakra training?" Naruko sighed. "I can manipulate flames, but I still can't properly use fire chakra. It seems these tomes only allow me to control the raw element, not produce it through chakra. I may have to wait until I awaken the Rinnegan before I can generate true fire techniques. That is, if we ever solve that puzzle." The two of them set aside time each day to work on the riddle, though neither felt pressured by it. After all, their journey was only beginning. As they started walking back toward their camp, a falcon landed gracefully on Jiraiya's shoulder. He read the message it carried, then released the bird after sending his reply. That was from Lady Tsunade. "Apparently, Sasuke is with Orochimaru. During a sealing attempt, he managed to break free and escape with Kabuto and a few other ninja. The retrieval team wasn't able to bring him back." Naruko shrugged. "So he's still out there. I'll see him again eventually." Jiraiya gave her a thoughtful look but chose not to press the matter. "By the end of this week, we'll move on. Our next stop will be Sunagakure. The instructors there can teach you wine manipulation better than I can. You'll also adapt to harsher physical training and learn to function in that environment. Once we arrive, we'll put together a new schedule." Naruko groaned at the thought of even more exhausting training, but then her eyes brightened as an idea formed. She froze mid-step, causing Jiraiya to turn. "Naruko?" he called curiously. She looked up at him with determination. "I think I've just figured something out." "Which means?" Time skip, 3 years later. Naruko leapt effortlessly through the treetops, though her expression revealed her irritation at her current mission. Lady Tsunade had never promised her missions would always be exciting, but Naruko had hoped for something different. Still, she carried it out diligently, knowing the importance of following through with her responsibilities. Flashback, 1 month ago, Hokage's office. "You want me to do what?" Naruko asked, surprise clear in her tone, her expression more animated than it had been in the past 3 years. Tsunade gave her a sharp look. "You heard me." Sasori revealed the time and location to meet one of his contacts within Orochimaru's circle. "You will attend." "It isn't the mission I'm questioning. It's the company," Naruko replied. Tsunade sighed. The Gaara rescue team had just returned from their mission. She had sent Kakashi, Naruko, Guy, Kurenai, Anko, and Asuma to rescue Gaara. They had arrived in time to stop Akatsuki's plan, restoring Gaara's safety and forcing the enemy to retreat. Sasori had been defeated, and Datara left the battle injured. Now, Team 7 had been reassigned. With Kakashi recovering from overuse of his Sharingan, an Anbu member would temporarily replace him. Naruko, however, had little desire to see the person who had once brought her so much difficulty. "I know you would rather avoid this," Tsunade said gently, "but your role is only to remain hidden and provide support if the situation turns unstable. With your mask, no one will know your identity. Once you secure the information, return with Team 7 for debriefing." She's right, Naruko thought. With my Anbu mask and the growth I've undergone through training, no one will recognize me. I can endure this. Fine, but you owe me for this one, Naruko replied, glancing out the window at the village she still vowed to protect. Tsunade smiled. Good. You leave in 1 week. Stay in the shadows, and perhaps you won't need to be seen at all. But as fate often had it, things rarely went according to plan. Present mission. Naruko felt the group ahead pause. From behind her Anbu mask, she focused chakra into her eyes, enhancing her vision. Since her induction into Anbu 2 months ago, she had worn the standard gear, though always carrying her treasured sword at her waist. Her mask bore the design of an owl, chosen by Tsunade, who deemed a fox far too obvious. Beneath her uniform, she wore her clan's protective armor, a constant companion even within Konoha's walls. Team 7 stopped at the long bridge, preparing their strategy. With her enhanced senses, Naruko overheard the plan. Yamato, also known as Tenzo, would disguise himself as Sasori using wood-style techniques to gather information from the spy. Team 7 now included new members. One was Sai, a former Root member, learning to express emotions after being freed from Danzo's seal. The other was Fugaki Hidatake, a hard-working shinobi from a civilian family, reminiscent of Rock Lee in spirit. Naruko silently observed from a distance, waiting for the encounter. Soon, a figure appeared at the bridge's center, Kabuto. Yamato approached in disguise, beginning the exchange. Naruko strained to catch their words when suddenly, everything shifted. Orochimaru appeared, disrupting the mission entirely. Yamato's wooden disguise was sliced apart instantly. Naruko's heart sank. The younger team members rushed to Yamato's side, but they were not equipped to face an opponent of this level. She had no choice but to step forward. In a blur, she appeared between the two groups, startling Team 7. "Who are you?" Yamato asked cautiously. "I am Owl, Anbu of the Hidden Leaf," Naruko replied in the calm, monotone voice she had perfected. "Owl? I've never heard of you," Yamato remarked. "I am newly assigned. Hokage-sama sent me in case the mission escalated. I will hold the enemy here. Retreat across the bridge," Naruko instructed firmly. "What? You can't face someone like that alone," Sakura exclaimed in alarm. "Please trust me. I am the only one here suited for this task," Naruko answered, forming hand seals. Anetsuse, Enko no Rujin. Thermal release, Flames of the Dragon King. A stream of brilliant white fire erupted, stretching across the bridge and forcing Kabuto and Orochimaru to retreat to its far end. Yamato placed a hand on her shoulder. "I'll go with you. I, too, am Anbu, and I won't let you face them alone." Naruko considered, then nodded. "Very well, Tenzo. But Orochimaru is mine." With that, she leapt forward, Yamato following. Naruko summoned another powerful wind technique, forcing the enemy further back. In response, Orochimaru performed a summoning, calling forth a massive serpent. Naruko stood firm. She raised her hand, pressing her thumb against a sealing gauntlet. Kushios no Jutsu. Summoning technique. With a burst of smoke, a magnificent dragon appeared, pale blue with mighty wings and glistening scales. Naruko landed upon its head, gazing down at Orochimaru. "For what purpose have I been called?" The dragon's voice thundered. "To balance the field, Hitomi-sama," Naruko replied respectfully. "Your strength is needed." The dragon's golden eyes narrowed, smoke curling from her snout. "Very well, little one. Let us see how this unfolds." With a single sweep of her wings, Hitomi soared into the sky, ready to meet the challenge head-on. Hitomi inhaled deeply and released a vast stream of fire, far beyond what any human could normally create. Without even forming hand signs, Naruko channeled her chakra. Futon, Atsugai. Wind release, pressure damage. A powerful tornado erupted in front of the flames, transforming into a roaring fire cyclone as Naruko guided it toward Manda and Orochimaru. After nearly a full minute, Hitomi and Naruko allowed the blazing storm to fade. The ground where it had raged was left scorched and blackened. Hitomi landed lightly, and Naruko jumped down beside her. Before her feet could settle, Manda burst from beneath the ground, wrapping himself tightly around Hitomi. The dragoness roared in defiance, even as Manda's fangs struck at a vulnerable spot. Naruko's eyes widened with concern as Hitomi forced him off, though the damage was clear. "Hitomi-sama." Naruko called out, her voice filled with urgency. A chilling laugh drifted across the clearing. "Kukaku. Did you truly think I would be defeated so easily?" Orochimaru stepped forward, calm and confident. Another thunderous roar from Hitomi drew Naruko's attention back. Despite Manda's grip, Hitomi fought back fiercely with claws, fire, and snapping jaws. The serpent retaliated, and with a great puff of smoke, Hitomi vanished back to the summoning realm. "It seems your companion was not as strong as you believed," Orochimaru sneered. Naruko's expression remained steady. "Hitomi isn't the leader of my summons. She came only because she dislikes deceivers. But if you want to see true strength, let me introduce Hiromi." She pressed her hand to the summoning seal. "Kushios no Jutsu." A surge of smoke cleared to reveal a dragon towering 2 stories higher than Manda. Even from her perch upon its head, Naruko noticed Orochimaru's eyes widen in disbelief. Hiromi's scales gleamed a radiant gold, her expansive wings stretching wide, her amethyst eyes sharp with determination. "Naruko-sama," the dragoness spoke gently, "are these the ones who harmed Hitomi?" "Yes." "How is she?" Naruko asked with concern. "She is resting. The poison has been treated, but she needs time to recover," Hiromi assured her. Relieved, Naruko nodded. "Then please take care of Manda. I will handle Orochimaru." "Very well. Summon me later, we have matters to discuss," Hiromi replied. Sliding down to the ground, Naruko landed gracefully while Hiromi surged forward to confront Manda. Naruko then turned toward Orochimaru, who had just regained his composure. "What kind of summoning was that?" he demanded. "I created a seal that stores my extra chakra and releases it for summoning. That way, I can conserve my own energy," Naruko explained calmly. Unfazed, Orochimaru launched his technique. Mandara no Jin. Myriad snake net formation. A flood of serpents surged forward, multiplying until thousands formed a living wall, each bearing sharp blades. But before they could reach her, Naruko unleashed her own jutsu. Anetsu sei, Hinote no Yomi. Thermal release, flames of the underworld. A wall of searing white fire spread wide, consuming the snakes instantly. Hidden behind the blaze, Naruko gathered more chakra. Anetsu sei, Maki no Kenba. Thermal release, blazing hounds. 4 luminous hounds of fire leapt from the flames. Orochimaru barely evaded the scorching chase by switching places with a log, but the fiery beasts relentlessly pursued him. His kusanagi blade struck one, but instead of dispersing, the heat only grew. Frustrated, Orochimaru countered with powerful winds, finally extinguishing the creatures. As he caught his breath, Orochimaru glared at Naruko. "Who are you?" Behind her mask, she answered evenly, "Someone you should not underestimate." Just then, the ground shook as Manda crashed down, followed by Hiromi slamming him further into the earth. Pinning him with one massive claw, Hiromi growled low and deep, her presence overwhelming. Manda glared at Orochimaru. "Do not summon me again," he hissed before vanishing in smoke. Hiromi lowered her head, eyes locked on Orochimaru. Her growl rumbled like thunder. "I suggest you retreat, Orochi team," Naruko said calmly, resting a hand on Hiromi's neck. "You will not leave victorious today." Orochimaru's eyes narrowed, but he wisely withdrew, disappearing into the trees. "Thank you, Hiromi," Naruko said, gently scratching the dragoness's nose. Facing both of them at once would have been difficult alone. "No trouble at all," Hiromi replied warmly. She raised her tail, revealing a piece of shed snakeskin. A token for Hitomi. With that, she vanished, returning to the summoning realm. Back at the bridge, Naruko found Sakura tending to Yamato, while Fugaki stood guard and Sai sketched quietly at the edge. "What's his condition?" Naruko asked. "Several strained muscles, a concussion, and severe chakra fatigue," Sakura replied with concern. Naruko nodded thoughtfully. "The mission did not succeed, but we will return to Konoha and report to Tsunade-sama. For now, let's rest until morning." She summoned a small, colorful dragon to deliver a message. "Take this to Tsunade-sama," she instructed. The dragon bowed. "At once, Al-sama." It darted away swiftly, leaving Team 7 to recover under the watchful eye of their masked leader. Time skip, 1 week. Naruko led Team 7 back into the village without stopping at the gate checkpoint. After all, Anbu operatives were not usually questioned. Their first priority was to take Yamato to the hospital. Once he was in good hands, Naruko went alone to deliver her mission report to Lady Tsunade. After a detailed debriefing, Tsunade dismissed her, and Naruko immediately returned to her apartment, arriving in a flash of speed. She removed her Anbu mask, setting it aside. Even though she had been back for months, she still kept her identity concealed in public. It wasn't that she feared others knowing she had returned, it was more that she preferred her peace and didn't wish to be surrounded by constant conversation. As she walked into her bedroom, she noticed someone already waiting there. "Kyubi, you have your own room," Naruko said softly. The fox spirit, who often lingered nearby in her human form, pretended to be asleep. Naruko, however, knew better. With a sigh, she set the blanket back properly rather than reacting to Kyubi's antics. "Foxy, I like staying here with you," Kyubi said in a playful tone. Ever since Jiraiya and Naruko had found a safe way to release Kyubi from the seal a year and a half ago, the spirit had remained close. The seal was left partially intact, allowing Kyubi to move between the physical world and Naruko's inner realm whenever she wished. This also gave her the ability to join Naruko on missions, even though she wasn't an official shinobi of Konoha. The process of gradually loosening the seal had been difficult. Each week Naruko endured an immense surge of energy as the seal weakened, training her body to adapt. Over time, her chakra capacity expanded to incredible levels. Eventually, she gained raw reserves comparable to even the mightiest of tailed beasts. Kyubi later explained that because Naruko had been so young when the sealing took place, her body had undergone unique changes, blending human and yokai traits. This granted Naruko longevity, immense chakra, and resilience beyond ordinary shinobi. Naruko had also experienced rapid growth. Years of hardship had stunted her development, but Kyubi had carefully guided her body to recover its full potential. Now 16 years old, Naruko stood tall and strong, though she carried herself with quiet grace. Naruko folded her comforter neatly before removing her Anbu gear. Kyubi frowned at being ignored, stepping closer. "Why do you always keep me at a distance? I've tried to understand you, Naruko. Isn't there some way to reach you?" she asked, her voice tinged with sadness. Naruko didn't reply, only moving past her and heading for the shower. Kyubi stood still, her expression softening. "I'm sorry, Naruko. I know you carry heavy burdens. I wish I could ease that weight." Just then, a knock echoed at the door. An Anbu entered swiftly, ignoring formalities, and approached Naruko's room. "Uzumaki Naruko is summoned immediately to the council chambers. I am ordered to escort her there," the masked figure declared. Kyubi stepped forward calmly, placing herself between the Anbu and the shower. "That won't be necessary. She will arrive on her own." The operative hesitated, clearly unsettled by her confidence. With a firm gesture, Kyubi guided him back toward the door, her tone even but commanding. "Trust me, she will come." Moments later, Naruko emerged dressed in a gray hoodie, armored gauntlets, greaves, and Anbu trousers. Seeing the tension in the room, she asked, "What's going on?" "The advisory board has summoned you," Kyubi explained simply. Naruko gave a quiet nod, donned her blank Anbu mask, and prepared to leave. She noticed the operative waiting outside, motionless, and frowned briefly before shouldering the responsibility of bringing him along. At the council chambers, Naruko entered carrying the unconscious agent, laying him gently near the other Anbu present. Removing his mask, she revealed markings that confirmed his affiliation with Root. "It seems Danzo's influence still lingers," Naruko said firmly. The board exchanged uneasy glances as they examined the mask and the seal inscribed within. "Take him to Aviki," Tsunade instructed. "Begin the standard seal analysis Jiraiya developed. Make sure no hidden failsafes are overlooked." Once the operative was taken away, Tsunade turned to Naruko with a softer expression. "Now, Naruko, I believe it's time you received something important. These are the keys to the Namikaze estate. I have also reactivated your clan accounts. The board would like to know more about your current abilities, though you may choose what to share." Naruko accepted the keys, sliding them into her pocket. After a moment's thought, she removed her mask. The room collectively gasped. "Why you have the Rinnegan?" Choza asked in astonishment. Naruko simply nodded. "How do you possess such a remarkable heritage? We lack sufficient understanding of it to truly know," one of the clan leaders asked. Naruko shook her head. This explanation was going to be a long one. She carefully recounted the history of the Uzumaki up to the Sage of Six Paths, along with how the Uchiha gained the Sharingan. After finishing, she fell silent. She deliberately left out the existence of the ancient tombs and the possibility of her accessing the Sharingan herself. Some knowledge was better kept secret. I cannot reveal all of my abilities, Naruko said firmly. No shinobi ever reveals their full strength unless absolutely necessary. Even as clan leaders, each of you keeps certain talents hidden. For now, all I will say is that I hold an affinity with every elemental style, and I have a connection to gravity itself. Shikaku adjusted his posture, trying to gain more clarity. Then what of the Nine Tails? Have you gained mastery over that power? Naruko's lips curved slightly. That is an interesting question. The truth is, the Nine Tails is no longer bound to me in the same way. However, she chooses to remain by my side of her own accord. That means I no longer draw upon her energy directly, though before this change, I was able to access up to 4 taels worth of her chakra. With a puff of smoke, a waist-high red fox appeared beside Naruko, 9 tails swaying gracefully behind her. The entire council jumped back in alarm, instinctively readying themselves for defense. The 9 tails chuckled softly at their reaction. And what could you possibly do against me, little mortals? Before anyone could react, Lady Tsunade raised her hand and brought the room back under control. Enough. If the 9 tails wished us harm, it would have already been so long ago. She has been free for over a year now. While she may not be fond of this village, the one thing keeping her from leaving, or causing problems, is Naruko. Be grateful that she cares enough for this place to remain here. The 9 tails smirked. You should indeed be grateful. After witnessing how this village treated Naruko as a child, I can hardly believe she has grown into someone so strong and resilient. Most would have broken under such hardship, yet she endured and still found a way to smile. A clan head opened his mouth to argue, but Tsunade silenced him with a sharp glance. Naruko has undergone every evaluation required of a shinobi, and she has always been deemed capable and stable. She continues counseling sessions, and that is her own journey. With that said, Naruko, you may leave now. We still have village business to discuss. Naruko nodded respectfully and walked out as the 9 tails vanished back into her form. Just before exiting, the fox reappeared in her human-like shape, though she refrained from alarming the villagers further. Naruko led the way toward the Namikaze compound, a place she had visited a few times but had never truly entered. At the gate, a sealing mark appeared. Recognizing it, she pressed her hand to it, and the seal responded, allowing the gates to swing open. Inside stretched a vast compound with elegant buildings and carefully designed grounds. A posted map revealed its many features: a dozen spacious homes, hot springs separated by gender as well as a mixed 1, 2 dojos, a market area, 3 outdoor training grounds, a recreation center, and the Grand Clan Center. The Clan Center towered above the others, 3 stories high. The first floor was filled with offices and storage for clan affairs. The second contained meeting halls and the clan leader's private study. The third was reserved as the residence of the clan head's family. Naruko now had access to it all. Today, she would finally explore. The 9 tails gazed around. This place is magnificent. Naruko gave her a small look. Why did you follow me here? You know it is risky for you to be seen. The fox pouted playfully. Oh, come now, Naru-chan. Don't push me away. I simply refuse to let you remain lost in your own gloom. If that means spending every moment by your side, then so be it. You deserve happiness, and I'll see to it that you find it again. Naruko did not respond, simply continuing her quiet exploration. She checked each building, admired their unique styles, and examined the offices. The only place she hesitated was the 3rd floor of the clan center. She placed her hand on the doorknob but could not bring herself to open it. The 9 tails longed to comfort her, but she knew this was a step Naruko had to take on her own. That evening, after leaving the compound, Naruko returned home. She went straight to bed, skipping dinner. The 9 tails sat silently against her door, listening. After some time, she heard the faint sound of Naruko stifling quiet sobs. The fox's expression softened with sorrow, her heart ached to comfort Naruko, but she remained still, silently shedding her own tears outside the door. 2 days later. Naruko stood in Lady Tsunade's office, waiting for approval of her next mission. This one involved traveling to Kirigakure to activate the next of the ancient tombs, the Tomb of the Protector. She had only recently deciphered the message from the previous tomb in Sunagakure, the Tomb of the Warrior, which had awakened her Rinnegan. Tsunade weighed the decision carefully, considering whether Naruko should go alone or take a team, knowing the secrets of Naruko's journey would need to be explained again. Naruko remained patient, prepared for whatever came next. Flashback, 2 years ago. Jiraiya and Naruko approached the great gates of Sunagakure after several days of travel across the desert. The heat shimmered off the sand, and their pace had been relentless with only a few short rests. At the entrance, 2 Chunin stood guard. One of them, newly assigned and eager to impress, raised his voice. "Halt! Please present your identification," he declared in a tone much louder than necessary. Naruko, weary and slightly irritated from the exhausting journey, tilted her head and gave him a sharp look. The guard maintained his act, unaware that Jiraiya was one of the legendary Sannin and that Naruko herself was a trusted ally of the Kazekage. Jiraiya sighed but said nothing. Naruko finally stepped forward. "Do you always greet guests this way?" she asked with a small grin. The older guard stiffened, clearly uncomfortable. His younger partner tugged at his sleeve nervously. "Kenzo-senpai, maybe we should be more polite," she whispered. Before the tension could rise further, Naruko moved swiftly and tapped the senior guard on the shoulder with playful precision. "Leaf Village secret technique, 1,000 years of surprise," she announced cheerfully. With a yelp of surprise, the guard stumbled forward, landing harmlessly on his feet several meters away. The younger Chunin gasped, unsure whether to laugh or panic. At that moment, Gaara arrived, calm as always. "It seems you bring excitement wherever you go," he said with a faint smile. "It is good to see you, Naruko." Naruko chuckled and waved, brushing the dust from her clothes. Flashback ends. Naruko groaned softly, shaking herself back to reality. She had been so lost in thought that she didn't notice Tsunade until the Hokage's voice thundered. "Don't drift into daydreams when I'm speaking to you," Tsunade scolded. Naruko rubbed her head sheepishly and steadied herself on a chair. "Sorry. What were you saying again?" Tsunade exhaled sharply but continued. "You will travel to Kirigakure. For your safety, you will be accompanied by a healing slug at all times. Kyubi will also accompany you. Since you won't have an official escort, this is the best protection available. Remember, Mizu no Kuni is experiencing a civil conflict. You are not to take sides. Your role is strictly observation and defense. Do you understand?" Naruko straightened. "Yes, Tsunade-sama. What is my cover story?" "You will be posing as an envoy, exploring the possibility of an alliance between Konoha and Kirigakure. That will give you freedom to observe without raising suspicion. You have 6 weeks to complete your mission, plus additional time for the sea voyage." Naruko nodded firmly. "Understood. I'll depart within the hour." As she reached the door, Tsunade called out, "Naruko." She paused and glanced back. "Be careful," Tsunade said quietly. Naruko gave a reassuring smile before vanishing from the office. Border of Hai no Kuni. Kushios no Jutsu. Naruko called, pressing her palm to the ground. A soft puff of smoke appeared. Instead of the enormous burst she expected, the mist cleared to reveal a tall, graceful woman in a flowing kimono. Her golden hair was tied in an elegant bun, with strands framing her face. "Ah, long time no see, Kyubi-sama," the woman greeted warmly, stepping forward to embrace her. Naruko blinked in surprise. "Hiromi. It's been a while since you've appeared like this." The dragon spirit in human form shifted nervously, glancing between Naruko and Kyubi. Her cheeks colored slightly as she tried to form her words. Kyubi leaned down and whispered something, causing Hiromi to blush even more. Finally, with a deep breath, Hiromi managed to speak. "Naruko. Would you allow me to accompany you on your journey? Traditionally, the bond between our clan and the Guardian Summon is one of great trust. I would like to strengthen that bond with you." Naruko tilted her head thoughtfully. "Why don't we spend more time together first? That way we can truly understand each other before making any important decisions." Relief washed over Hiromi's face. She smiled. "That sounds wonderful. Where are you headed?" "To Kirigakure. I need to unlock new abilities at the Tomb of the Protector. But remember, we must stay cautious. The region is unstable right now. We'll only defend ourselves if necessary." Hiromi nodded firmly. "Understood. I'll prepare things at the den and rejoin you shortly." With that, she vanished in a swirl of smoke. Naruko turned to Kyubi, narrowing her eyes. "You're planning something, aren't you?" Kyubi smirked playfully. "You'll find out when the time is right. Don't worry, it won't harm you." Naruko sighed, recognizing that pressing further would get her nowhere. "All right then. Let's get moving." We've got several days before we reach the coast. The two continued their journey, the horizon stretching endlessly ahead. Time skip, 3 weeks. Naruko, Hiromi, and Kyubi stepped off the boat onto the shores of Kiri no Kuni. They arrived in a quiet coastal town, a few days' travel at civilian pace from Kirigakure no Sato. As they left the town behind, 12 mist shinobi appeared, surrounding them in a well-coordinated formation. Well, what do we have here? A visiting leaf kunoichi. What brings you to Kiri? Asked the leader, a tall man with a mask, tinted glasses, and his forehead protector tied around his upper arm. Naruko stepped forward with calm confidence. We come on official business with your Mizukage, on behalf of Lady Tsunade, the 5th Hokage. We would appreciate an escort to ensure we do not get lost or encounter unnecessary difficulties. The Kiri Jonin studied Naruko, then cast a sharp look over Hiromi and Kyubi, carefully evaluating their presence and potential. After a brief pause, he nodded. Very well. We will take you to the Mizukage. With a snap of his fingers, 4 more mist shinobi appeared. Each wore uniform attire and identical blank onbu masks. Escort these 3 to Lord Mizukage. They are to remain safe. Stepping aside, he allowed Naruko and her companions to move forward. This way, said the masked leader, leaping ahead with effortless grace. Naruko, Hiromi, and Kyubi quickly followed, easily revealing their own advanced training. As they traveled, Naruko observed the escort more closely. The leader was an older shinobi with streaks of gray in his brown hair and a neatly kept goatee. Another, a young kunoichi around 16, wore short-cropped hair and light attire suited to swift movement. But it was the third who drew Naruko's attention most. This shinobi was a woman likely in her early 20s, with ankle-length auburn hair and customized armor fitted differently than standard issue. Yet it wasn't her appearance that intrigued Naruko, there was something about her presence, an aura Naruko couldn't quite define. She made a mental note to learn more later. The last escort remained unremarkable, blending into the group without distinction. Time skip, 2 hours later, Kirigakure no Sato. Naruko and her companions entered the hidden village, guided toward the tall tower at its center. As they passed through the streets, they noticed the city's condition, broken buildings, struggling families, and an air of hardship. The atmosphere felt heavy, and even with their sharpened senses, they focused on composure and empathy, understanding the strain of the ongoing conflict. Upon entering the tower, the mood shifted. The interior was well kept, filled with the scent of polished wood and light incense. The group ascended 5 flights of stairs before being ushered into the Mizukage's office. Behind a large desk sat Yugra, the 4th Mizukage. He looked up with a warm but guarded smile. Ah, you must be the delegation from Konoha. I am Yugra, the Yondaime Mizukage. How may I assist you? Naruko stepped forward, presenting a scroll. Unlike the one originally given by Tsunade, this had been replaced after careful discussion with Hiromi, with the new message delivered before their departure. We come as an official delegation from Konohagakure to explore the possibility of a trade agreement, and perhaps even an alliance. I am Uzumaki Naruko, a shinobi of the Leaf and serving here as bodyguard. My companions, Kyu and Hiromi, though capable of defending themselves, are primarily here to evaluate the physical and economic conditions of Kirigakure. We have been granted 6 weeks to conduct our survey, though we may require less time. As part of our assessment, we request access to the surrounding areas of Kirigakure, and I also ask to spar with your 3 most skilled shinobi. This will provide us with a clear understanding of your village's military strength. We hope you will find these terms reasonable, as we wish to form a complete and accurate impression of a potential ally. Yugra's expression brightened at the opportunity. An alliance with Konoha could greatly strengthen his position, and even without an alliance, additional trade would be invaluable. Very well, Uzumaki-san. I will allow it. However, you will have an escort at all times. And I must caution you, we are currently in the midst of a civil conflict, so vigilance will be important. Naruko inclined her head respectfully. We appreciate your honesty, Mizukage Dono. Rest assured, we will remain close to the village during our surveys. When should we expect the sparring matches? Yugra considered. He wanted to impress them promptly. In 2 days, the sparring will take place. For now, please rest. Jonin number 315, escort our guests to their accommodations. At once, the auburn-haired kunoichi, the one who had caught Naruko's notice earlier, appeared silently before them. Please follow me, she said with courtesy, gesturing toward the door as she led them to their lodgings. Dear YouTube family. That's it for today's video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, it really helps the channel grow. Thanks for being part of this journey. Until next time, stay awesome. Much love. 6 Path Weeb.